This is a really exciting opportunity to talk about the future of technology in education, and we're all here because we're passionate about really seeing how this can move forward in our schools, in our organisations, and how ultimately we can make a difference to children. And we know that technology engages them, so it's a fantastic opportunity to really look at this afternoon. We only have to look at innovation in things like the iPhone to see how technology's rapidly improved over the last few years. And technology is one of those, the fastest kind of changing areas in life, really. And one of the things that we're looking at is that the iPhone has changed our lives, and it really has made everything seamless. And we only have to think about what the first mobile phones did. And my first mobile phone made calls and received calls. And it kind of received calls if I was lucky. The mobile phones now that we've got are hugely different and have made a massive difference in our lives. And it's about how then we can move forward, because my phone now, not only does it make calls and receive calls, it then lets me talk to it. It tells me if I'm going down the street the wrong way. It lets me take videos. It lets me take photographs. It lets me send them. And it's an amazing piece of technology that in such a very, very short space of time has transformed how I live my life and how we all live our lives. And we need to be thinking about, well, if that is our students' experiences and that's what they've grown up with, and they are the digital natives, then we need to be changing our practice in schools. Because unfortunately, the picture you see on the screen there is fairly reminiscent of a lot of the classrooms that we were taught in, but unfortunately maybe quite reminiscent of the classrooms that are still in our schools. Take away the black and white, how many of your classrooms are still in rows facing the front where the teacher is stood at the front, at the board, directing the learning? And we've got to change. We've got to really catch up, because technology is changing, the world is changing, but actually in terms of our practice, when we look back over years, 10, 20, 30, 40, even 100 years, a lot of our practice is very, very similar in terms of the teacher being the oracle at the front and the students learning from that teacher. We've got to change that. And with technology, we can do that. And we can make huge strides, because the technology we've got available in our schools is amazing. And I think we're only scratching the surface of what we're able to do with that technology. And it's about looking and being more innovative in our practice. Whether it's with tablets, whether it's with phones, whether it's with laptops, with smart boards, whatever it is, we have now got the technology to actually break down these borders and to break down the barriers that were once there. And we can do amazing things that we could never ever have dreamt of, even 3 or 4 years ago. And if you look around the stands today, you will hopefully go back to your schools and be inspired by things that you can now do that you couldn't do 12 months ago. And it's about really using that technology, because sometimes as teachers we complain about the lack of ICT infrastructure or facilities in our schools. Yet the power of the phones in our pockets are sometimes more powerful than the computers in our desks. And when we talk about needing an IT room for 30 computers, or for students to have the access to the internet, or for them to do whatever it is, or some video editing, the students have got this in their pocket. We've already got 30 fantastic computers probably in our possession in every lesson. But still, we're too scared sometimes to use that. And I suppose one of the key messages I want to say this afternoon is that technology sometimes has a bad press, and it gets a bad press in schools. Social media, and people are scared to use it. And ultimately, the technology isn't the issue. Technology isn't the problem. It's the users. And we need to educate our users how to use that technology better. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have learned how to drive a car and own a car. If we look at the amount of road traffic accidents on the road every year, if we were all worried about what might happen, we would never get behind the wheel of a car again. And I think it's the same with technology. We're scared because, oh, well, somebody might post something on this, or somebody might do this. Well, let's start educating our students. Because if I said to any of you today, don't touch that, it's hot, or keep off this, it's wet paint, you'd probably all come over and say, how hot or how wet? Yet we do it in our classrooms. We say, put that technology away. Don't use that. That's dangerous. And all we're doing is setting a challenge to our students. We're putting that fence in front of them and saying, I dare you to climb that. So the students are more intrigued about, oh, this must be really dangerous. I wonder what will happen if I go on Facebook. And actually, we need to start to loosen the reins and be more empowered to think that if we're teaching the digital generation, we need to actually teach them with what they know and what they're engaged in. The future is an interesting place, but it's also a scary place for us as educators, because we are charged with readying and developing students for a world that we don't know what it's going to look like, and for jobs that don't even exist yet. And that's a really sobering thought in terms of how on earth can we actually make sure that a student in my care is ready for a job in 30 years' time. When I was at school, I could not have gone to my careers advisor and said, I want to be a web designer, because he'd have thought I meant to design something to do with spiders. And that's ultimately where we're at. We're at that real cutting edge of knowing that technology will be there and it will be heavily involved, but we've got to make sure we give our students the right skills to use the technology. And it was interesting, I had a good chat this morning on the way to the station in Darlington, where I live up north, and I was talking to the taxi driver, and he was asking me, because he's an ex-teacher, what are you talking about? And I was talking about this, and he said something really interesting. He said to me, John, he said, technology has to be seamless. And I thought, he's absolutely right, because in our everyday life, I don't now go and find a torch in my house. I grab my phone and use my torch. I don't find a calculator. I take my phone out. And actually, we need to be making sure that we're educating students on how to use that technology to best equip them for future life. And things like making sure they can ask the right questions and filter the right information. And we don't know what the future is going to look like. And a few years ago, we thought it might look like this. Not too long ago. And we were all really interested about buying our first hoverboard. And things change. We're getting close to that. All right? And I think maybe in a few years' time, we might have hoverboards on corridors, who knows? But we're at that stage where nothing is impossible. For me, in terms of seamless technology, this is what I'd like to see the classrooms in my school look like in a few years' time. I want to really eradicate IT rooms and booking an IT room. I think technology should look like that. It should be seamless. That ultimately we can learn in a 360-degree environment where students have got access to everything at their fingertips. And that really is where education is going to go. That's really where technology can help us. And that's not too far away. Having huge interactive displays, bring up live information, live trends, live feeds from the students, analytics, and we've got those things available right now. It's about thinking how as educators and how as leaders can we start getting more towards that situation than a situation where we need to book an IT room and take our students into a room for 50 minutes and that's it. And I still hear people, unfortunately, in education in the schools I go around, talking to students and talking to our digital natives and saying, come into my classroom, put your phone away, put your iPad away, turn this off, turn that off, put all of your wonderful technology away, let's get our pens and pencils out and our notepaper and let's do some real learning. And that's not really engaging our students anymore. And I know only too well from my children, one who's 11, one who's 8, how engaged they are with technology and how that drives their life and how they understand it. They understand how to download apps from the App Store. They understand how to choose a different web browser. They understand all of those things that a lot of our teachers maybe don't. So we need to upskill our staff as well to make sure that we are on the ball and on point with our students. And when we're talking about education and when we're talking about technology, our main goal, realistically, is to make sure our students leave our care in a better position than when they joined us. And that's easier said than done with some of our students. But it really helps if we can create those moments of awe and wonder where they can remember those memorable learning moments and those opportunities that stick with them. And if we're going to be teaching students over 5, 6, 7, 8 years and expecting them to remember those facts from a number of different subjects, we need things to stick out in their memory. We need them to say, that's the lesson where we Skyped in with a park ranger from America. That's the lesson where we created a new canvas and we collaborated on this together. That's where we were able to use this. That's the lesson where I created the video. Rather than, that was the Monday morning when it was raining at the start of December, and actually I haven't remembered anything at all. But how can we create those memorable learning experiences? And we've talked about engaging students. But we're also really talking about engaging parents, because one of the keys to using technology is that we can actually key into our parents a lot more. And things like the Penstripe app, which I'm happy for you to speak to any of the team about after I've spoken to, can really engage our parents and can make sure that not only are we engaging our students in the school and out of school, but we've got that triangulation with our parents. And thinking about how students perform and which students perform better. Students generally who have a real well looked after, or a family that really look after them in terms of an understanding of where they are in education, what they're doing, and being able to assist them and help them with that, usually perform better. I know from my son, being able to actually ask him, you know, what have you got today, what have you got, and he has to go in the bottom of his bag and try and find it out. Wouldn't it be fantastic if I already knew and I had a notification to tell him, or to tell me, that he had some maths homework tonight? So when he comes in the door and I say, you've got maths homework tonight, no I haven't, yes you have, I know you have. Off the Xbox, let's get that done, rather than him giving me some story of not really sure what I've got when it has to be in. So it can engage the parents, it can engage the students, and it can engage the whole community in the learning process. We can also make sure that students can consume this information and consume the education at any point in their lives. And if we think about when we consume information, when we want to learn, it's when we want to learn and when we're in the right conditions. Whether it's sat in a coffee shop, whether it's lying in bed, whether it's sat on the toilet with your iPhone, wherever it is, you are choosing to learn or to think about something at that point, not when it's forced upon you. And our students are able to do that. And I do a lot of work at the school I work at Acklam Grange School in Middlesbrough in terms of flipped learning. And the flipped learning approach is where we can actually deliver a lot of the content prior to the lesson. The students can actually receive that information, they can watch videos, they can get the main idea, the basic concepts. So when I'm teaching a lesson, I'm not stood at the whiteboard giving the new information. The students are already 20% further on. And if the students are 20% further on, I can take my lessons 20, 25, 30% further. And I've also started doing this for professional development. So all the professional development sessions that we run at our school are all done in the flipped learning concept. And our staff watch videos before they come in. It's far more practical, it's more engaging. And again, the technology is the vehicle that we're able to deliver that by. I talked about independence before, and the Penstripe app, the homework planner that they're fantastic, they've developed, and they're launching this week. If we can get our students to take ownership of their learning, and if they can really own when they're going to do their learning, and they can schedule it, and they can check it off, and they can submit it, and they can do it in their time when they want to, surely that's going to be a benefit for us all as teachers. It's going to make our workflow a lot easier, and if it engages the students and they take ownership of it, then we're going to be getting a higher degree of completion, as well as higher quality. So it's a win-win situation for everyone to really get on board. I think that right now, education has, as well as technology, is getting a bad press in terms of recruitment. But my view is that it's never been a better part or a better time to be part of education, because it's an open road. With technology, we can take our lessons, we can take our learning wherever we want to go. And wouldn't it be amazing for your students to come into your class every day and be inspired and think, where are we going to go today? What are we going to do today? What amazing opportunities am I going to be faced with today? Rather than, I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to open my book, I'm going to do the same thing, the member of staff's going to stand at the front, they're going to talk to me. We're better than that, we're past that. And technology can let us do all these amazing things, but we've got to be innovative and inspired and be ready to want to move forward. So what is the future? And what does the future hold? I think it's an exciting place. It's a fantastically dynamic environment that we can really shape how we want to. And we can mold it from classroom to classroom or from student to student. And I don't want the future of education and the future of technology to be dominated and driven by the technology companies that are around us now. They design the software, they're producing the software, but as teachers, we're the ones that roll it out, we're the ones that deliver it, we're the ones that inspire students. And the technology companies provide that platform to let us do that. They let us stand on those platforms, but it's our job to really move that forward. And two questions for you to take away from today, either from anything I've talked about or anything you see many in the stands, is what if? what if we could do this? What if I could bring an expert into my classroom via Skype? What if I could get my parents engaged via a homework app? What if my students were able to submit work online and get feedback immediately? What if? What if? And lastly, why not? Because right now we can do that. We just need to be innovative, be inspired, and really we owe it to the digital generation and our digital natives to be on our game with technology. Thank you very much indeed. I'm happy to stay around for any questions, and I'm happy if anyone wants to grab a drink with me at any point and speak to any of the guys about the app. It's a fantastic app, and I'm sure they're happy to demo it and to really see how that can work in your context and your school. Thank you.